Okay, so I'm just going to post another video here about another idea that I have that I just want to post on YouTube to either get it discussed and get people talking about it, get feedback from it, hear what people think. So in this one relates to um, how okay, so like people are saying, what are the odds that the universe is so finely tuned to so where life could live on it, and then or life could exist. Now, there's the multiverse theory, which is probably true to some degree. I mean, I feel like there's probably some truth to it, but it's saying that there's an infinite amount of universes. So I mean, the one of them is bound to have life, and it'd be the questions would be being asked within that universe. Like the only time that question would be asked is within a universe that would happen to allow life to exist. So now, and that's very well possible, but I'm taking it in a different dimension. Like, so in a before I describe that, I'm gonna first explain this idea, this concept, and to me, or I call it, just calling it right now, like infinite smallness. Now, like we can break things down to the Planck length or atoms, particles, whatever. Now, as a thought experiment, just imagine that you become the same size as the particle. Like or smaller, right? Let's just say, like, conceptually that this exists. Like, we wouldn't have the technology or whatever, but, conceptually it exists. Same with the Planck length. You become the same size as the Planck length. Or even if it's not physically possible to achieve it by any way that we know, conceptually, again, that you would be able to even get smaller than the Planck length. So, anyway, where I'm going with that is, that life and laws of physics kind of apply on in different scales. So now where I'm going with this is, not only is there the possibility that there's an infinite amount of universes in which some life could exist, but there's also that concept of scales. So now there is, like, imagine the four fundamental forces, gravity, the strong and weak nuclear forces, and electromagnetic force or electromagnetism. So now on different scales, these forces would just seem different. They would behave differently, or they'd be perceived differently to a consciousness on that scale. So like the strong nuclear force, like with how it keeps particles together in the nucleus, and like that might, if you were the size of a particle, it almost seem like gravity or something, like or magnetism, or I mean, well, okay, and then imagine now gravity. Okay, like let's say your like galaxies are kind of like molecules, and then those consist of something way bigger. Now, gravity would almost seem like electromagnetism or the strong nuclear force. Like it'd be the force that kind of hold things together on a small scale. So now, as we go through these different scales, the way that these forces interact with each other, the way they synergize, are different. So, in a way, not only could the conditions for life intersect in a sense, like spatially as far as possible universes, but also in size. Because, like, see, in a sense, life wouldn't just sprout up on us at the scale that we are now, or it's very unlikely, at least. Like it's not like all molecules just get together in this form. It's very take more length of times that the universe exists, probably. But or you're larger, like it's probably unlikely that life would exist in a larger, like involving universe or galaxies, or you know uh, particles or whatever, or even smaller than particles. Like maybe there's energy filaments, like in string theory or whatever. But so now, so it's at that exact point, in an exact universe, or in the universe where it's possible. Okay, and most of the universe it's not. Like there's space, there's the sun, but okay, then there's this planet, this one planet of certain composition, of certain distance from the sun, and all these other factors that have aligned. But even at an exact point, of size, where like the molecules on this level, where the forces interact with each other in this manner, that some sort of self-replicating chemical reaction that keeps itself going can exist. And we've seen similar things happen on their own by chance. There's the uh, the natural nuclear uh, fission reactor. They believe they saw, like, that's, you should just Google it. I'm not going to the details of it, but that kind of relates to the possibility of something like this happening, because it's like very against the odds, but everything just kind of met up, and it was a reaction that the conditions needed to be perfect for it to happen, and needed to remain somewhat stable and perfect for the reaction to continue. And so that's all I'm postulating for life. Is simply a reaction. Like, just imagine baking soda and vinegar really react, but it reacts in a manner that pulls in more vinegar and baking soda. Like, it just keeps itself going. Okay, and that's simple. That's two ingredients. Like, it'd be more than that. It'd be, it's getting energy from thermal vents, and it's got tons of other things, and it rolls up into little balls of jelly kind of goo, and it just kind of like lives off the heat. And then and life sprouted pretty shortly after the earth was here, like within a few 100 million years. The longest phase of evolution was actually from single-celled bacteria to complex. And I know that, yeah, I was like, shortly after that the crust hardened, it wasn't that much longer that some form of life came up. Like, just recently I saw an article where they think they found life that's at least 3 point almost 8 billion years old. And the Earth is like 4.3. So, and they said it can be up to 4.2 or something like that, 4.1 years old. Maybe the Earth is 3.5. I don't know, but anyway, yeah. So life, this chemical reaction that's somewhat complex and exists in the right conditions and keeps itself going, is probably not that crazy of an idea, especially when you think of how many planets there are, how many universes there are, how much time has gone by, and even just on the planet itself. Like, not even just two-dimensionally, like all the area that it can happen, but three-dimensionally it can happen through many layers or in the water. So it's not that crazy if you think about it. All those possibilities, like, let's say just like the most basic form of life, like some sort of complex chemical reaction, let's say it involves millions of atoms or particles or whatever, molecules. Now, with all that time and all those universes and all those planets and all the space in between, and between the different areas of dimension and size, it's bound to happen. So, but yeah, so anyway, the main idea was just to add an extra dimension to the many, or no, to the multiverse theory, which is, instead of there being many universes, there can be universes kind of within our own as far as size, where things, synergize, or they interact with each other differently, in the same sense that we think of forces interacting with themselves differently in other universes. So that could apply within our own universe, is what I'm saying. Now, and then just a little bit more, just to kind of explain a little bit my idea into a little bit more detail. Like, just think about atoms, and this is a common thought. This has been said before, but you think about atoms. There's the nucleus, and there's those things rotating around it. Then you think of the solar system, okay? And there's the nucleus, which would be the sun, which is most of the mass, just like the nucleus, and then there's a planet spinning around it. And then there's the galaxy, most of the mass in the center is spinning around it. It's like things exist on different scales, and time happens faster on a smaller scale, because it would, the same amount of energy applying on something small would have it go through more events that involve energy because it's smaller. And just things happen faster anyway, like what I was saying, electrons, the solar system, universe, or the galaxy. Did I call it universe earlier? I don't know, the galaxy. But yeah, they all move slower. So keeping that in mind, it would make sense that things on a lower scale would evolve or happen sooner than things on a higher scale. So in a sense, life would exist cellularly way before they'd exist complexly. And things will apply in that upward, direction. So like, first the life will become single-celled on that scale. And then through time, since the scale larger in it, time goes by slower, it will apply slower. And that's kind of where we're at right now. It's almost like we are a single-celled organism on this scale, and the Earth is the multi-celled living organism that's slowly forming into its own organism. And obviously, people would say there's differences, but we're not talking about like the specifics. We're talking about conceptually, like to a degree, like the roads are um, like veins, and the cops are the immune system, and like getting the bad cells, um, and it wouldn't be just us that this consists of, but everything. Plants, animals, rock would be like the bone, and so we're at the very beginning stages. Like maybe this the beginning cells weren't even just all life. Maybe it involved like a chunk of rock and a chunk of this, and it kind of was probably. It was probably just compounds mixed in a way. But in time, just how like a cell is pretty much solidly, fully its own creation at this point of life, probably the whole Earth will become that. Eventually, we will just develop the whole Earth, and it will be just a very efficient machine, and then we will spread out into the universe, into the galaxy, and make other cells. Like, and it'd almost be like, when the cell divides, and then there'll be other planets that become fully developed, and then in a long time, now things on that scale might start reflecting things on the lower scale. So, like, eventually, the galaxy might, every planet that's habitable will become, will be habitated. Yeah, well, and then they'll start connecting with each other there, and then the galaxy might become like a cell, and then we'll go out to other galaxies, and it's just, so it's almost like life is not only growing on this level, but it's growing up, and it's growing in scale and in conception, in concept. So, and this, with these, all these ideas kind of intertwine with each other and kind of point towards the idea of infinite smallness between time applying in different at different speeds on different scales, and that forces and the laws of physics intersect in like measurable, coherent ways in scales, in stages. Yeah, and they all go together. So anyway, yeah, that's the basic idea. I just wanted to get out there to get people talking about it, get them thinking about it, and I'd love to hear feedback. If you have something that you think I should hear, I will try to respond. If you like this video, if it made you think, go ahead and give it a like. All right, thanks.